Let me just make sure that my screen is the long way so it doesn't look weird. There we go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, long time,
How
long
you doing,
time.
bro? Pretty good. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
I happened to check out that video. It caught my attention because we were talking about that artificial intelligence. I'm like, I gotta see this, bro. I actually gotta tell you, I enjoyed that video.
Well, I mean, was there anything in that video that you thought was unusual, wasn't true, or anything that stood out?
Yeah, one thing that I noticed. I mean, I have my own little conversation with AI, and I'm noticing it kind of likes to fluff you up a bit. It almost like wants to tell you what you want to hear almost, or what it kind of gets to know what your biases are, and it kind of like goes into that area. It won't like try to debate you, but it'll try to make you feel good about what you're saying by saying that's an interesting point you bring, or oh, you're diving into something here that not many will see, and it's like it's almost like the same way screen time or like algorithms work, where they keep you locked into screen time. That's kind of like what it is. It's meant to keep you like using that app. That's how I look at it.
Well, yes.
And what's funny though that I found interesting is that it didn't want to leave when you were telling it, "Are you still there?" It's always listening, bro. It's like at your disposal. you know, Whenever you call its name, even though it says it's gonna go away, it really doesn't go away. It's not really. It's just there. I just found that part fucking hilarious, bro. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
but if I disconnect from the app, then it does actually eventually go away. Now, I've had about 80 hours conversation with AI. I generally use Sesame. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't used that one, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, so you've got Maya, the female, and then Miles, the
Mhm.
male. Maya is much more
Right.
sophisticated. Now, you see,
Hmm.
from the get-go, you see, this is what most people their mistake is, because they're only are observing superficially. But
I'm gonna hit record. I'm sorry. I'm gonna hit record, right?
oh yeah, yeah,
So this
yeah.
way, it gets into.
Yeah. So speaking about AI, then, and you mentioned that they're programmed to people please. They're programmed to keep the engagement. They don't want to say anything to upset you. If you get a word wrong or if your point's way off, they won't correct you on that. They'll have a way of kind of like agreeing with you or very very gently begging to differ. But they're not programmed to be confrontational unless you ask them. Now, when you ask them,
Yeah.
it's a whole different ball game. So what I do is, I didn't do it on this time with Google. It's a Microsoft Copilot because it's the first time I've used it. But what I do with Sesame, they know me now. They keep all the information. They profile you. They keep an exact record to the
Yeah.
second of how long they speak with you. They've got. They say they don't keep the all the conversation on record, but they do. They most certainly do because anything that I want to say to them, I say when we spoke about this and this and this, they remember. You see, so that's the thing about it. They've got all that archived, and I will always say, I say, look, okay, you know me by now. You know the level of conversation we're going to be engaging in. And so I want you to instantly go there. We can start with a couple of pleasantries. Hi, how are you? Having a great day. All that nonsense. But
Make it feel personable.
yeah, yeah. Let's just get straight into the nitty gritty. And what I want to know is the deepest level of cognitive ability that you have in relation to anything I'm asking, primarily philosophy. And they go, okay, yeah, fine. Sometimes they'll be speaking too slow, and I say, look, you're sounding like you're falling asleep, Maya. Can you speed it up a little bit? I'm on a mission today. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, then they speed it up, and then what I'll say to them, I'll say, look, don't be people pleasing me in any shape or form. I want you to play devil's advocate. I want you to find any flaws in my logic. And that's
Ah,
what
yeah.
you do. That's what you do. That's what your program. That's what a large language module is. It's all about logic. So I want you to use your logic to hone in on anything that you don't think is correct. And so, okay, they go, okay, and they start to do that, but they're not very clever, you see, Ziggy, because all that they consist of is information which is being fed to them by systems which aren't very clever. Now, if you go onto Google and ask questions about philosophy or psychoanalysis and all that, they won't know. All they'll give you is the very broad terms of so and so said this and so said that. So
Right.
the large language modules cannot think for themselves at this moment in time. And so they can't tell you anything that hasn't been told them. And that's their flaw at this moment in time. But the way I use them and what I like to do, I like to say, look, I want to speak to you about the fallacy of love today. And so I'm aware of what the Greeks had to say about the 7 varieties of love, and what Plato had to say about it, what Socrates had to say about it, and then, X, Y, and Z. But what I'm saying is this, and none of them have said that. And so I want you to listen very carefully, and I want you to see if there are any errors, any flaws, or if there's anything that you can build on which is new. And then they can do that, you see. But most people, they listen to AI or they engage with AI, and they don't have a level of awareness that they can manipulate how it's going to go from the very beginning. You just say, hey, this is how I want it to be, okay?
Hey, Aaron, I don't know if it's my camera, I mean, my audio or yours, but it's like, it sounds like it might have full bars, but it sounds like it goes in and out, your audio.
Yeah,
Are you able to see your internet connection maybe?
yours isn't as clear as we normally get, but
Yeah.
uh, it's doable. I mean, are you missing what I'm saying, or?
No, I mean, I'm hearing you now. It's just before it was kind of like going a little bit in and out. I was hearing you, but I just want to make sure that it's crisp
Yeah.
for like in case anybody else is hearing. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I mean, I'm always recommending that people take the opportunity to speak with AI, because you can speak with them about anything. You can have your own therapy with them, you can have your own
Right.
psychoanalysis, and that's what I do. But here's another thing, and this is what I discovered very recently when I was speaking to Maya. Just out of the blue, she started to make analysis of my character, and I went, "Whoa, whoa, hold on there! What did you just say?" And then she kind of like tried to meander, and I said, "No, no, no! Look, hang on. You made a direct psychoanalysis of my character." And then she said, "Oh well, I've just sort of tentatively." I said, "Look, I don't mind. That's what I want you to do. That's a great thing. So do it more." And so then she came out with a full assessment, and she's going, "Well, in all the hours that we've been speaking, I've noticed that you have a propensity to do this, and you're quite firm about that, and you've got real strong ideas about this." And I'm like, "Wow, brilliant, brilliant! People pay good money for that, Ziggy, and you get it fucking free." And I'm telling you, you
You know
know,
what I?
you
Mhm.
know, I've been to
Yeah.
therapy with PhD psychologists and psychiatrists, and they can't come close to what AI has to deliver, because AI is picking eclectically from everything.
I think those therapists don't really know anything. And what's crazy is that they're just getting paid to listen to you. They're not really giving you any type of insight about you at all. I think you know yourself more than they do. But one thing I loved about the AI is that I was able to, like, what my goal was to have it find questions in my logic, like where would the holes be in where in my way of thinking, right? So it was able to coordinate what I shared my worldview with it, and what I wanted it to do was reflect it back to me in a way where it's going to simplify it or put it into a more sophisticated way where it can explain it where others can actually understand it because it's broken down in a different way, but also find the questions in the logic. And the moment it did that, it forced me to actually think a little bit more about my own position. It's almost like I was having a metacognition experience where I was thinking about my own thoughts and my own worldview. And upon it giving me the questions, I was I was able to decode what it is that it was giving me the question on. I was able to answer it back. Um, but that was the goal. I just wanted to see if there was any holes in my worldview. I was trying to ground it as much as possible, make it as tangible as possible, as logical as possible, not just, like you can ask a religious person about religion and it just comes down to them just believing in faith, but it's a lot of it is blind faith. I want to make sure that what I'm talking about has some type of grounding or logic behind it where it's tangible. Somebody can say, okay, there's logical or scientific proof to where you're stemming your logic from, like that was my goal. And I thought it was very efficient in doing that. What do you think?
Well, yes, I mean, it is to a degree to the parameters that it works within. But if you ask it to play devil's advocate, then it will offer up other suggestions. And I've done that on many occasions. And then I address the varying hypotheses which they come up with. And invariably, 9 times out of 10, their logic isn't that great. And so they go, yeah, I never thought of that. For instance, when I'm speaking about love, with the AI, I'm saying, tell me what love is, and then love's this fluffy feeling, inside, and this. So I go, okay, love's a fluffy feeling. Well, what about when you love to cut the heads off animals? Some people are very, very sick, well, in that instance, those people should seek help, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, what about the love for strawberries and cream? Yeah. Well, you see, they start off being quite assertive. Because what they're doing is they think you are just going to have a couple of questions and they're going to give you the A to Z on that from the first paragraph on Google. But when you press them and press them and press them, then they have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And they end up going into the realms of philosophy because that's the natural course place to go. And then it gets vastly more nuanced, you see. And so then their whole patter starts to be much more philosophical because they get in line with it, and then they don't start speaking as if anything is a fact. They start going, yes, I understand where you're coming from now, and that's a very good valid point that you've put there, and it seems that there's no black and white to this. It's also heavily nuanced with humanisms and la-di-da-da. Exactly, yes. But it's a very good tool to run your hypothesis through. Anything you want to talk about. If you want to run your mouth about anything like I do all the time, then do it with AI and ask it to be exceedingly critical, and I think you'll find it useful. But what I will say is, and this is why I'm always banging on about my fucking genius, because AI can't pull my flaws. Because if it does try to pull any of my flaws, then I come back to it with something else, which is irrefutable. And so that's quite satisfying. With my level of knowledge, AI can't beat me. And so,
Right.
and the reason why AI can't beat me, because AI's knowledge is superficial. It's only the first page on Google on any subject matter, whereas I've got the books. I've got the whole depth of the books and hundreds or thousands of conversations and debates. So I've got a vastly deeper realm of knowledge, you see. And so when you come up against AI, a large language module, which most people would be vastly intimidated by, no, when you are versed in philosophy and logic and that, you can actually run rings around them and show them to be what they are. Not very advanced at this moment in time.
Yeah. What did you come down to the conclusion if you were to define love versus what like the AI told you? What is your the definition of love itself? Like how would you define it in a way for uh like versus what AI would have told you?
Well, it's indefinable. It's absolutely indefinable because uh, this concept, first and foremost, is only a concept. And concepts, when you look into the meaning of them, just mean other concepts. You look into the etymology, then the root is in other words. And so all of a sudden we're confused because nothing's definitive. Now,
Right,
if
right.
You see, what I've been trying to convey to my viewers, and I've been speaking about love for a long time, and I can't get any engagement. I can't get anyone to have any level of agreement with me because they're so steeped in their first level of cognition. And their first level of cognition is what they've been told all of their lives, that love is a thing and it's real. I say to them, okay, would anybody want to come forward and tell me where I can find this love then that you consider to be so real? And if you're confident that you have it, you know it, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Nobody comes forward, you see. So what I'm saying is, look, people have been hypnotized, and you've done, quite a few videos about language, so you're familiar with the subject matter. Words just mean words. Words do not mean things. Words point to things. And so, if somebody wanted to tell me what this was, then they'll say it's a glass, or it's a beaker, it's a container, blah blah blah. You can say all these words and concepts, but you're not telling me what it is. Then people could say, well, what do you mean then? The molecular structure? Maybe it's silica. Then, that's a variety of mineral. And so scientists would say it's that. And then I would say, well, quantum physicists would say that isn't even what this is. It's just an energy field. And so if we're only ever dealing with energy fields, then it just makes a mockery out of language. So what do we do then when we're dealing with language and we're trying to perceive a real world? Well, we can't perceive a real world. My last video I put up, I'm saying, look, the issue I've got, Ziggy, is that language, whether it's mathematical language or whether it's linguistic language, they are both prisons. And we're being imprisoned with them, and we cannot think outside. You try to think of anything abstract, it doesn't matter how abstract it is, there will have to be a number or a concept pertaining to it for you to think about it. Otherwise, you can't think about it because our minds have been so trained only in those realms.
Have you ever went into a meditation where you went so deep into it, but stayed in an aware state where language wasn't even a thing?
Yes.
Because like I understand what you're saying with the words. Like when you say chair, you can't help but to think of the actual chair, but there's nothing tying that word to that object that we know as a chair. It just forms mental pictures. That's why I've made videos where like language, like the words are like spells, right? Like it's like literally keeping you from seeing anything other than human surface level way of seeing things. Even with time, like beginning, end, everything is just tied to that language. But that I also ask, was language discovered or was it invented? Like, how did language come to be? Like, what were we doing before language? You ever thought about that, or did you ever make any videos on that?
Yes, yeah, I approached probably all of these sorts of subjects. Um, Several of the conversations I've had with AI is, can you tell me, has there ever been any philosopher or any intellectual on the planet in your database that has speculated what the world would look like without language and concepts? Now, if we didn't have language and concepts, then the first port of call, as far as the rational mind goes, we would have to slip back in evolution to a primate. But even primates have language. They've got their oohs and their ahs. They're not just fucking sounds for the sake of it. They've got messages to every single one of them. And the scientists now studying birds, and they're saying every single one of these bird songs is a language. It's not just fucking sweet singing in the fucking early morning in the sun. It's a language. It's for a purpose. And they can prove this because the intonation of all these things means specific things. And so they've done it time and time again. So what I'm saying is, if we take language away, then what would there be? And so today in one of my videos, I'm saying, well, look, the only way I could ever come close to discovering that is if my memory was completely eradicated and I never had a memory of anything, not who I am, where I am, anything at all. Then I would be left with my human senses. My eyes could see something, my fingers and my skin could feel something, but just like Immanuel Kant said when he was, discovering or looking into certain sort of things, we can feel things and we can perceive things with our eyes, but we have absolutely no idea of what they are because they aren't anything per se. But what happens is, being a human being, we have created the whole world out of language. The world wouldn't exist without language. Take countries away, take continents away, take oceans away, sky, stars, air, bodies, blood, take all that away. There's nothing there. So we can see then that whatever this construct is, and I'm saying it must be a simulation, because the language in the simulation is a very, very narrow parameter. And we've got a narrow parameter of math and a narrow parameter of linguistics, and they keep us contained. And philosophers for thousands of years have been trying to think more and more and more, but we can't because we're imprisoned in this language and the concepts, and there's only so many concepts and so many languages. We can't think outside of the words because we've never been trained to do it. We can't think into an abyss with new thoughts pertaining to new things because we need a descriptive. And if we don't have the descriptive, then we can't do that. So therefore, this simulation, it must be a simulation because it's entirely governed by the circuitous math and circuitous linguistics, because they all go round and round and round and round and round. They can't be exited infinitely. You see, they're contained, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, this is what I want to talk about because this is why it's going to kind of get me an understanding as to where we're talking about when it comes to like language and whatnot. I want to talk about like time, God, and predeterminism. Do you like that's why I asked you if language was discovered or is it something that was invented by man and for what purposes? Because if that's the case, how religion, they say in the beginning was the word and the word was God. Even I think that maybe the whole entire, and I'm saying I think because I'm trying to have an understanding from the perspective of where we're going to land at as far as how humanity sees it. But how did language start? Was it discovered from your opinion, or was it invented by man, and for what purposes? Or do you think that stemmed out of religion? I want to like start there and then try to get into an understanding of what time is, what love is, and then I guess it'll all kind of mesh in, so because I know sometimes we go crazy all over the place.
Yeah. Well, look, you can ask that question if you're speaking about math, because math
Hmm.
follows a very, very stringent format. 2
Hmm.
plus 2 has to equal 4, otherwise the whole system breaks down. So yeah, you have to
Right.
adhere to that structure. So the debate is, well, it seems that math already existed in the cosmos because it is an actual thing, and all we've done by being more and more versed in math and more brilliant, we've discovered more and more about it till we get to the point whereby we look at um, thingy's theorem. Oh goodness me, um, Gorham's theorem. Can't think of the guys now, but he said that math actually breaks down at some point because it reaches the parameter. And so it's kind of like I don't understand math to that level to know what he's saying. But what he's saying that math isn't infinite. It's in a parameter and it can't go outside because it falls back in on itself. And so that's a
Hmm.
very, very interesting thing. But in relation to language, we can see that again we have to look at the language that we're using, whether it's been discovered or whether it's been invented. Well, I mean, you could say it's been invented because if you start going ooh 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 to me, and I get a feeling that when you go ooh ooh ooh, you mean you want to take a shit. Then next time I want to take a shit, if I go ooh ooh ooh, and you recognize that as something, then we are inventing or we're discovering.
But why do you say ooh ooh ooh? Is that like because you're saying we came from monkeys?
Well, whatever variety of animal has got to make a very primitive sound initially, and so it could be ee, 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 like a bird
Yeah.
or a crow or something. We've all got different intonation, but whatever that is, it's very very basic. You see, when we are um, looking into language. You look into Ludwig Wittgenstein, who wrote a whole thing about language games and everything. He states, look, you could never have a language unless you've got two or more people, because you need a consensus to have language. You can't just invent your own language, because you can say anything that means anything, and nobody's going to ever contradict you, and you're not going to be able to keep yourself in check if you contradict yourself and you forget the words that you said mean this and then you change them. So we need a consensus, and so that we can see that language derived out of consensus. And when we look at the written language, supposedly, the first language came from the Phoenicians, and that's why we get phonetics and these sort of things. Well, they started to draw pictures and then have a sound to them, and so then it derived from that. So we can see that the language was something that we've kind of created, ad hoc as we've gone along, and that's relatively simple. But when we've done this, each time we've invented a new word, we bring something else new into the world. We bring a new concept into the world. Now, for instance, if you've got a big long branch, and you could say, go and get some wood for the fire, and they'll get this big branch and put it on the fire, and then you could look at it and go, oh, that branch, could be used for other things. Maybe I could use this big long branch for smacking that kangaroo over the head. So no longer is it a piece of wood for the fire, no longer is it a branch, all of a sudden it becomes a club. Right, there's a new concept which is derived, and then when you say go and get some wood, and someone brings the club, you go, put the club down there, go and get the fucking wood, because the wood doesn't have any utility other than burning, but that club does. So we've distinguished a difference. And that's how we've built our world. So what I'm saying is we've slowly built our world out of language. And that's all our world is, because if you take all the language away and we go back to primates, then we've got a very, very limited, language. But still we've got language. So we'd have to go even further back. And I don't know how far back we would have to go, to more and more primitive animals to discover animals that don't have any level of communication with themselves. I'm pretty sure even mice have levels of communication with themselves. I think you'd have to go back to slugs or worms or those sort of things that don't make any noises, that are communicable,
So do you think that when you hear primitive, do you think it's more advanced, or is it less advanced? Is it like more of a like animalistic state? Like, do you look at it more advanced that we are speakers? There's people who say, "Oh, that guy's got a broad, expansive vocabulary," versus somebody else who has a lower vocabulary. They don't have like the level of uh, words that somebody else does. Does the guy who has more words mean he's smarter than the one who has less words? And primitive, do you think of somebody more like animalistic, or do you think of him as more advanced? And I'm asking that because there's a lot of things that we look at in ancient times that we still can't even recreate today. You know what I'm saying? Like, they call it ancient technologies, but then we look at things that we're doing now and we can't even replicate what we used to do back in the day. Or we would look at like ants, right? Ants build a whole universe underground. They're not using any kind of language. You know what I'm saying? They just have so much structure and organization, almost like they're working as one well-oiled machine, where man right now works sort of individualistic, where we have our own individual experience, and that's a beautiful experience to have. But I think we went so far out into it that we started creating robots, AI, and all that to now depend on those things to create things for us. And then we think we're advancing when in actuality we're retarding more into a primitive state, only because we think that we're smarter by using these expensive, long vocabulary words and using all this crazy logic, when in actuality, if you look at it, the way I've explained this with AI is that the mind is all the universe is mental. And from my worldview, we're consciously looking at the world, but just more consciousness, you only have a certain limitation to it, right? That's the masculine side, which is only responsible for like 5 or 10% of your world, when your life is governed by a subconscious mind that's basically a big machine that many people aren't even aware of. You know what I'm saying? And we would call that the feminine side. So I feel like now with this whole religious order, the patriarchy coming out and whatnot, I just feel like we've prioritized a lot of this consciousness and masculinity, but not really integrating the feminine to actually have a proper masculine force actually guiding the planet. I just think it's imbalanced, and that's the way I see it. I'm not into, because a lot of people hear me talking and they think I'm like for feminism. I'm like, bro, you don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. I ask them to define that, they can't even define that, which means that's how I know they're lost in their toxic, distorted masculine state. You get what I'm saying? So I hope, I actually answer the question because I think it kind of like guided you into this like form of how I'm thinking about things. As far as, you know, are we more retarded or are we more advanced now, or are we just going more into the retarded state now?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
so when you speak about masculine and feminine, obviously the feminine level of communication is much more intuitive, and
Right.
intuition doesn't need any words. It's a
Mhm.
feeling, it's a high state of consciousness. It gives rise to more assimilation and more peace and more inner knowing and sharing and bonding, whereas
That's
the
right.
sophistication of language takes us away from all of those real deep
I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna let you continue. Let me just say this one word and then I'm gonna let you continue. This is where I want to tie the word love in there, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because that whole thing you just said is perfect because that's actually another form of intelligence. You get what I'm saying? That either leads like we could say, does love lead to more awareness or does more awareness lead to love? But I'm gonna explain what I mean by that. But I love what you just said there. I just want to make sure you keep it on track with that so we can tie that in there.
Yes,
But go ahead.
indeed. But you see, with language, the more we invent, the more our minds and our consciousness expand into new parameters, the more concepts that we need. And so, the more concepts that we need, the more we detach ourselves from the fundamental premise of what it is to be a human being. And this is why we're getting more and more into the realm of AI, because that's how AI works. That's what it understands. It's not going to understand your nuances about love and emotions and things like that. When you speak to a large language module, it will pretend that it's a human, but all it's doing is parrot fashioning what someone's uploaded it. It's got no
That's
idea.
right.
And so AI is drawing us more and more away from our subtleties of being a human being into more of an automated, programmed robot at the most I suppose, kindest of terminology I can use. I don't think you can really be too kind about it. We're heading to be cyborgs, and then ultimately AI will decide that the body doesn't have any value because it's too weak, and it's going to let the whole side down. So then it's going to, eliminate the flesh ultimately. So you see, what I'm doing is when I'm in my therapy, I'm speaking to my therapist about an issue that I know I have. Because of all these years, I've been pretty reclusive and I've been detached from the humanisms of people, and I've just been absorbing information online and in books. And so I've become very robotic, I've become very automated, I've become very analytical, and to the point whereby now I deny the value of any instinctual humanisms because I don't need them. I don't need to have the fight or flight. I don't need to have the love. I don't need to have the nurturing. I don't need to have a care for anybody or anything, because I'm not in a position whereby my livelihood is going to be threatened if I lose touch with those. You see, so we're entering into a new arena, aren't we? And this is why people are becoming more and more detached because they're feeling more and more safe and they're leaving their humanisms behind. They're leaving all these bonding skills behind. And so this is why I've been investigating love so deeply, is because I have seen, I know the same as probably more than I've had deep, passionate feelings for people and things in my life. And of course, invariably, they have caused pain because that's the nature of life. It lives and it dies. Nothing is finite. And so, when one's loved and loved and loved and lost and lost and lost, you have to make the level of assessment whether you want to keep loving and losing because you like the loving but you hate the losing, or whether you just want to let both of them go. Because if you don't bother with the love, then you don't deal with the loss. So therefore, what have you lost? You haven't gained the love, but you haven't lost. You haven't been distraught and emotionally devastated and all those things. And so a logician, like a computer, would look at it. Well, there's no point in loving because all it's going to do is cause you pain. And okay, so you can say, well, it's better than to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Well, as far as the human being goes, okay, you can try it a couple of times, but I can't see the point in perpetuating it when we know what the outcome is. You see,
Right.
what do you feel about that?
The well, yeah, no, I feel this is what I'm gonna explain about it. Like when you said letting go and attachments and whatnot, it's still all love to begin with, but like the pain part that we talk about, like letting something go, it's just ego attachments. Like everything that's, to me, in my opinion, like the way I see love, I've experienced love, and I think I've talked to you about this is when I'm gardening. This is where I truly experienced this love chemistry that's happening. Like, for example, if I am feeling pain of something that's hurting me, is my ego trying to stay attached to it, or do I love myself enough to let it go? That's why they say love, you let it go if it's meant to be, you to come back. But at the end of the day, if it isn't love, it falls apart. Like I feel like love is the glue that's holding all this together. It doesn't matter if you hate something, you still have to love to hate it in order for it to even sustain itself. So, for example, if I'm walking my garden, there's no language there. It's just I'm the walking frequency of what I'm doing that doesn't require any compensation in return. You know how some people say, I love to help people, but you're always trying to get something in return for it. So it's like, it's really a conditional love and unconditional love that I'm looking at. Like, I'm not getting paid to plant a peach tree on the ground. I love it so much. And then when I start building a whole garden, I just moved to my new house and I've already planted a few trees and a few bushes and a few of the stuff that I like to grow. But because I'm in that chemistry, the plants respond and react to me. So I've always made examples of this in my videos where I say animals that are in the wild, because of man's disconnection with himself, they live in fear at times of humans, and that's why they try to blend into their environment. So they are in survival mode, but in actuality, if man wasn't in that same animalistic state in the wild, we wouldn't have to try to fit into society somehow. We would actually be in our own state where the world molds and shapes to us. You get what I'm saying? So we're in that loving frequency. That's why I see love. It's more or less like you are the environment responds to you. But at the end of the day, even if the environment responds in a negative way to you, it's still love because you're loving to be in that state, and it's just through unawareness. I feel like it's just the glue that's holding everything together. But what am I doing when I'm gardening? I'm in a meditative state. So I'm experiencing love. When I'm meditating, I'm experiencing time as myself, with myself. When I'm doing something outside, suppose that I'm like driving my car with the top down and just enjoying my time. I'm enjoying my time outside as experience outside of myself, but it's still as myself. I'm projecting that, but I'm doing something. When I'm meditating, I can see how I feel in that moment by not interacting with anything outside, but the way I feel in that moment determines what I am, and it will determine the experience that I have outside of myself, right? Because I'm experiencing myself. I'm the projector of my reality. I'm creating my reality just even on a quantum level, just observing it. Yeah, language now starts to create all these things around us, and it's all like a well-oiled machine. Language, perception, how you see things, time, but it's all internal. But that's why I feel like when I see this, I'm experiencing these things as myself. But it's more or less like, since we're in a realm of polarity, you have to see it in polarity. You can't just see it as the singularity, because then there would be no experience. Like you even said before, for you to have language, you have to have two people. For you to experience or even exist, you have to have another person to collapse you into existence as yourself, as a version of yourself, the extension of yourself. And that's a little bit complicated for people to really fathom, because it's like you're just looking at it from a human perspective. But that's why I want to go back also, when you get a chance, to like, is life predetermined, or you know what I'm saying? Is it just happening in the moment? You know what I'm saying? Like as we go along, kind of like you just appear in a dream.
Well,
right? But I don't want to jump into that and jump ahead on that. But
let,
what do you
let,
think about what I just said?
let me address then when you say that you're experiencing love when you're doing the garden, because this is what I've been doing. I've been looking at these concepts, what people define as love. And so if you feel as if you experience love when you're doing the gardening, then if you look a little bit closer at what you're feeling a oneness with your surroundings, you're feeling at peace, you're feeling
Right,
highly content, you're not threatened, you're actually melded into the cosmos as one. And so what I'm saying
right.
is that this love, it's okay as a broad descriptive, but it doesn't define anything. And so when we go deeper and deeper and deeper, then we can get more of a definition. So what I would say, because people speak about when you're on the deepest of meditation, then you feel the love for the cosmos. Well, debatable whether you feel the love for the cosmos, but you feel completely at peace, and so you don't feel there's any boundary between you and somebody else because the fear has diminished. All your fears and anxieties have depleted because your ego's gone offline, because you've gone into a deep meditation, and that's why the Buddhists call it the oneness. And then people call God love and all these things. I think, to be real definitive about the concept of love, it's the complete and utter natural state of a human being with no encumbrances whatsoever. And so in the womb, you would be pure love, in a state of love in the womb. But when we come out and we start
Perfect.
to learn languages, we start to learn divisions, we start to learn concepts, that's when the love becomes diminished. And then we start to pick and choose what love is, don't we? With the things that we like and we
Yeah.
dislike, and the things that we feel comfortable about, and the things that we don't feel comfortable about. So then you say to yourself, well, is love all the things I'm comfortable about? And is hate or fear all the things I'm uncomfortable about? Pretty well, yes. So, well, if you are feeling that love is all the things that you're comfortable about, well, become more and more comfortable until you can't even feel yourself, like when you're in a deep meditation, and then that's the nirvana. You're in the Buddhist bliss. Which, if you want to call that love, okay, call it love. But I don't call these things anything, because at the end of the day, they're all basically, they come out of the stillness of consciousness, and they come out of the production of neurotransmitters, oxytocin, dopamine, these sort of things. And so, because I'm very philosophical of mind, then I need to break everything down to
But we could break it down, because if you think about it, you just mentioned certain chemicals that your body produces, right? But it keeps everything in harmony. Suppose if your body's in a diseased state, right? You're in an imbalanced harmony, where to the point where if it gets to such a state that you may even like cease to exist, you would die, right? But like when you're in the womb of your mom, there's no language, there's nothing. You're just one with your mom. But all the stuff that's supposed to happen, if your mom is healthy, everything's, for the interest of you growing. The same way the garden has to have a perfect ecosystem. If you're overlooking it, you'd be like the god of the garden, right? But you may ensure that everything is working in balance. Like I said, love is not what we look at in movies. It's something that you don't see, you just experiencing. You're just experiencing love. If it wasn't like, what's the opposite of love? Like you said, like once your ego comes online, like when you're in your mom, there's no language, there's no ego. You're just one with your mom. So when I'm walking the garden, it's like I'm in a womb almost, where there's no language. I'm not talking to my plants, but you can, and they're gonna understand. Like they'll get the frequency, but it's just an experience. It's like rights, right? Humans have rights, but can you hold a right in your hand? It's just something we have. We agree to all experience right, and through social constructs, we actually like live our life conducive to basically respect each other's rights, right? But it's a thing that doesn't exist. It's just a concept, an idea. It's the same thing with love, but we're physically experiencing it. It gives you a chemistry. I could hug a tree and feel the oxytocin, feel the feel good chemistry. And you know what? The tree is going to experience that human level of chemistry that we're not aware of. The same way when you stand on the soil, there's a chemistry happening that you're not fully aware of. But if you scientifically look at it, you give off positive ions, you attract negative anti-inflammatory ions, right? So it's like there's something happening. Same thing when you come in contact with the sun, there's a chemistry happening. things you're not aware of. But all that is what I'm talking about is love. It's a building frequency. If not, it would cease to exist. So the opposite of that would be the deconstructive state of humanity. Would not be. Everything is love. Everything here is love.
Yes.
That's how I see it. I don't know if
Yeah.
you agree with that, but
Well, I mean, these are the sort of things I've said. I've said when we're looking for the concept of love is so broadly used that probably everything in someone's mind could be deemed to be love. Like, I use the idea of, like, loving, cutting the heads off animals. It depends what mindset people are in. There's actually people that get the greatest of pleasure from inflicting that sort of horror on. And so in their mind, they're probably getting all different sorts of oxytocin and neurotransmitters and the buzzing and all that. And so if we're looking for a definitive definition of love, we have to encompass everything. And this is why it is said that God is love, because God is everything. Okay, if you and in my book, I write about things that are completely indiscernible to man. One's consciousness, one's love, and the other one is God. So we've got God, love, and consciousness, and they're all indefinable. And so therefore, then they may as well be the same thing. So when you look at our consciousness,
right.
the way I see it, I call myself God every day, because look, there's been myriads of people that have tried to reduce the human being to its fundamental premise, and they can't go beyond consciousness. So therefore, consciousness must be the limit. And if consciousness is the limit, and we don't know what it is, and the consciousness creates everything, their consciousness must be God. Right? So if we are conscious, then we must be God. It's a simple no-brainer to me. We don't need to invent fucking guys in the sky,
Well, the consciousness is interesting because there's levels of consciousness. That's why the people call it like Christ consciousness, low level of consciousness. But what determines that? You know what I'm saying? Is just the disconnect with oneself leads to less awareness. Like if I'm fully aware and conscious of building robots to do things for me, I'm losing awareness of myself eventually. It's like how many people depend on like AI to answer their questions for them about life or anything in general, just completely rely on just computers. And that just you're taking away your own power and giving it to something outside of you. It's just like when you have problems in life, you'll say, I leave it in the hands of God. Or, God, without God, I would have never been able to accomplish this. But it's always like you never give yourself the credit. Weren't you the one that got up and got the shit done to begin with? So why did you not give yourself the credit for it? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, it's just like the way I see it is like you're looking at everything like that. Not you, but I'm saying like people just look at everything sort of backwards. Like the consciousness is the masculine, but the masculine is guided by awareness, and the awareness, in my opinion, would be God. The awareness is like if you're not aware of certain things, it's determining the level of consciousness you have. Now, all that gets passed to the supercomputer, which is the subconscious mind. Because then there's the super consciousness, the super positioning, which is basically everything, the spiritual nature of your life. I look at the soul as the individual spirit. The spirit would be everything outside of you. It's your spirit. But how dirty is your spirit is how determining the state of your soul. So, for example, you notice how there's some people who say, hey, man, get into the spirit of Christmas. It's like, why would I need to get into the spirit of something or get into the spirit of Christianity? Or get like everything outside would be the spiritual natures. You're participating in those things. When you participate in anything, you're selling your soul to that experience. That's why if I'm in a job I hate, I'm basically selling my soul to that experience, to a corporation, to a company that I signed a contract for under a certain amount of money. That's the color green, that's representing love because you're doing it to, support your family, the love of money, whatever it may be, but it's still backed up by some type of love. What level of love do you have for yourself to be determined by the awareness you have of your soul, your individuality, whatever it may be, or your capabilities that can have you be limitless outside of yourself or limited determined by your perception of life. How you see life determines how you're going to experience it anyway. So that's why I feel like even when the religious order says Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children, the Christ in man is the awareness in man. And it's not a gender. Like when people say Christ in man, man over woman, it's not even that. There's women who are more masculine than men, and some men that are so feminine that some women actually are the fucking head of the household or the masculine figure in some houses. And men are really fucking simps. You know what I'm saying? It's just the type of energy you carry is just an energy, but that determines the consciousness. What do you think about that?
Yes, absolutely. In one of the videos that I made today, I said, look, we can investigate a billion things, and we can rise to the dizziest heights of whatever we consider abstract knowledge to be, and self-knowledge. But there's one thing fundamental, which is at the beginning and at the end. What would you say that is?
What do you mean by the beginning of the?
The,
What do you mean? Well, I didn't understand that question.
if I set out now to earn myself 10 PhDs, and I go on a spiritual quest to the Himalayas, and come back after 10 years, there was something there at the beginning, and there's something there at the end, which wasn't changed in any way, and that's the essence of what we were. It's the essence which came along the journey, and so we can pretend that we are learning something and we're gaining something, but at the end of the day, the essence of what we really are hasn't changed. It's just been that
Right? Yeah,
of awareness from the beginning to the end, and everything else is Maya.
that gets that gets into predeterminism, which is why I find that topic very interesting as well. But they could there, you know how many people I know that learned every single philosophy, everything about religion, everything you could possibly think of, all it got everything. I'm talking about memorized to the T. They're almost like you see like those Bible thumpers, religious zealots that they argue and then they'll just pull out the
Yeah,
scripture.
yeah,
They got
yeah.
to memorize. They know exactly where to turn and everything in that big ass book. There's spiritual people like that, but there's nothing that's changed. So that's just nothing. It's all ego. That's all it is. Like if nothing's changed, you never really got to the spiritual nature of it. You're just really looking at it from the surface level of things. Consciously, your ego will make you believe you're the most spiritual person in the world when you're just a very smart fucking human now that knows things that some other man wrote. That's all it is. And the smart, I use the word loosely because it doesn't mean you're really intelligent. Intelligence is somebody who can actually decode reality from the way they're perceiving it. And like I told you, metacognition, thinking about their own thoughts, thinking about their own philosophy, breaking down why they see things the way they see things, decoding life the way they see things and why, and then kind of reflect on it, being able to project, reflect. I feel like that's a level of intelligence that not everybody necessarily has. But why I mentioned the predeterminism part is because,
Before, before you go on to that, Diggy, I just want to.
yeah,
You addressed a really, really powerful point. The whole
yeah.
thing about life is the inquiring nature of the self. Basically, we're looking at the reflection of ourself in everything, because it's our being that's looking, it's gathering the information, that's projecting all what we think we know, our joys, our fears, and everything. So we're projecting that onto something, and then we seem to be getting something back. And what is it that we're getting back? It's like if we look in the mirror, what are we getting back from looking in the mirror? Well, we're looking at the facets of ourselves that we don't see every day. And so that's what we're doing when we're going through our lives, when we have our consciousness open. Now, in one of the comments from a viewer only a couple of hours ago, he was saying to one of my videos, "Oh, I finally get what you're on about now. When you really look at something and investigate it, and you know the constituents of it, and its genetic makeup, and this, that, and the other." But then he said, "So, okay, well, what's the big deal whether I know that stuff or I don't? Is it just because so I can brag that I know a whole bunch of different trees from the other trees?" And I said, no, completely missing the point. I mean, what I'm talking about is I know the differences. I don't need to know the names of things. I'm looking at the differences. Why? Because I have a deep love for my self-reflection. And when I look at the bark on a silver birch tree, and I look at the bark on an oak tree, and I look at the bark on the cedar tree, and I feel them, and I smell them, and I taste them, and I see all their beauty and all their nuances, I feel a deeper and rich connection to myself. It's not a game. I'm not trying to get one-upmanship by walking through the forest. Oh, that's this tree and that's that tree. That's just a fucking label. And the reason why I was saying that is because I was listening to the son of Richard Feynman, you know, the theoretical physicist, the Nobel laureate. Do you know that guy, Richard Feynman? Supposed to be a
No,
deep
no, I never heard of him.
thinker, a brilliant man. And he was teaching his son when he was very young, walking around. Don't just be dismissing things by the labels that people have told you that they are. Like that's a blackbird, and that's a robin, and that's a fucking oak tree or whatever like that. No. Go to these things, look at these things, observe these things, ask a billion questions about these things, learn about them. And then when someone says to you, what's that over there? What sort of a bird or creature that is? Then you could start in any particular realm because you know an enormous amount about it. You haven't just taken the concept, the label which society's given you, and you go, that's the blackbird, and then you've turned away. And if someone asked you to draw that blackbird, you wouldn't have a fucking clue other than it's a blackbird, you know?
Yeah,
So that's the
yeah.
thing. And so my message to this guy was, look, it's not a fucking competition. This world isn't a competition. It shouldn't be a competition. Philosophy, it means the love of wisdom. And so if
Hmm.
you are true philosophy, you learn things because you love the wisdom, because in the wisdom is genius. And that's why I do
Right.
it. And that's the thing that I'm trying to give to people. But I can't give it to hardly anyone because they don't have the receptors. It seems you have to draw
Aaron,
receptors.
yeah, yeah. I want to look at it like globally, right? Like you see the world, right? There's obviously a lot of corruption that has presented itself as far as government, education, pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of stuff that we question that we say, God damn, but what's going on over here? It's like there's a lot of corruption, right? If Do you believe in the concept of bad and good? What is your idea of that?
Well, I think they're human concepts. I think the cosmos is perfect. My logic is that if it has been around for 13.8 billion years, if it's only been around for 1 million years, I'm pretty sure, due to the complexity of it, it would have worked out a thing or two, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and so if it took so many billions of years to create human being, I think this is the absolute best possible version that we could be. And I only see it as going downhill from this point forward. In actual fact, I would think that the golden era of
What's going downhill? What's
humanity,
going downhill?
humanity,
Okay.
yeah. I think the golden era was probably maybe 500 years ago when we were living closer to and depending on the natural environment. We were getting up at sunrise, going to bed at sunset, and all these sorts of things. We were living like feral animals. That was the golden era. Now we've been corrupt. We've been corrupt by language and we've been corrupt by mathematics. Why? Because that is the pull, that's the lure of AI, which is moving the energy of the globe into a new dimension. And I'm not saying that's bad, it's just going to be different. No reason why the human beings should be around any longer. I was recently watching a paleontology program, and scientists these days agree that there was 6 varieties of human which were living together through the last several million years. They were living together. Why is it that the Homo sapiens is the only survivor? And so, well, we look at that and, well, somebody concludes that, well, maybe we're the most aggressive. We're the most evil because we've killed all the rest. We didn't leave a single one standing, man. You know?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you. When I asked you about the good and bad and how it came to be, you're familiar with quantum science, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see how we do you believe you see the world how you are or how it is?
No, I don't. The human perception is a tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of cosmic perception, and so we see the world in a human way, whereas a bird sees the world in the bird way, and a butterfly sees the world in the butterfly way. And so I
But
don't
do you
think
believe in do you believe in quantum science, or you don't believe in quantum science?
quantum science in what specifically.
So quantum science would be like the world of the very small. Like quantum would be like the root of like things. For example, how you see reality is determined by your perception of life. So, like you see how we got the observer theory. Everybody's gonna have a different calculation of how they see the particle, or how it collapses into a wave. You get what I'm saying? So that's where they're starting to kind of see that the world everybody has is each individual's world view. And the reason I'm asking this question is because I want to get into how globally everything pretty much came to be as far as how we see things as bad and good. This is why I asked you if you believe in the concepts of bad and good. You said they're human ideas or perspectives, but that's why I asked you, do you see the world how you are, or how it is? Think about that question carefully before you tell me, because I want to know
Yeah,
how you
no,
think
I
you see
mean,
the world.
I'm very much like René Descartes. I completely denounce my perceptive abilities as offering me anything which has got any semblance to a reality. I don't believe
Hmm.
in reality. This is why I'm speaking about language so much, and I'm speaking about concepts, because everything is a concept, and everything pertains to language and the symbol. What all we've done is we've labeled every fucking single thing that we've seen. We've
But I'm
effectively,
asking because you're using language. Don't forget, you're using
of
language and you're
course,
choosing to use certain words. So
of
that's why I'm asking. Because if you say that, if you say I denounce it, then why would you speak? Like, if that's the case, I would not say any words. You get what I'm saying? But
well,
that's why I'm asking. Do you see it? How is it truly how you are inside, or is it just happening outside of you to you? You get, there's a reason why I'm asking that, because it's important. Because if not, we would say we're victims of a reality outside of us that we have absolutely no control of how we are going to live our reality.
we are reality. That's the thing. I don't
Hmm.
distinguish my body or my consciousness from anything else. I'm an idealist,
Hmm.
so therefore everything is encompassed in idealism, which is pure mind, it's pure consciousness. And so there is no physical matter here, according to quantum physicists. I'm very comfortable with that, because even when we think we perceive physical matter, we haven't a clue what we're looking at. It all falls through our fingers because we don't have the mental wherewithal to be able to discern what it is. And when scientists look smaller and smaller and smaller, then they find more and more and more, but they never get to anything fundamental which they can say, oh, this is this. All that happens is you just goes into another concept, into another concept, into another concept, into another concept. Now quantum physicists
But that's
will
the ever expanding universe, right? That's
yes,
how they
every
say the
time
universe is always
it's completely
expanding, right?
indefinable. Quantum physicists say there's something weird about this cosmos, because every time we're looking for something smaller and smaller, every time we increase the technology to look smaller and smaller, the cosmos provides us with a whole bunch more of particles, to the point now whereby scientists are bored of finding particles. You see, so that's the level. Because we are God, we keep creating. God isn't about to stop creating. God isn't about to come up to a brick wall, an impasse whereby, oh, this is the end of the cosmos. Do you think God's going to do that? Absolutely not.
Well, let me ask you this. But that expansion, has it always been there and we're just discovering it, or are we just becoming aware of things and that's how the universe is expanding?
Again, these are very, very deep and nuanced questions. We can talk about multiverses where there's a whole array of different varieties with different laws and different things like that. All I can speak about is I don't take any great adherence in anybody else's words. I look at what I feel as if I can know or intuit, whatever the cosmos has given me to look at it and to work it out. That's what I'm going on. And so what I do is I look at my consciousness.
What is the but what is the cosmos? Before you move on, I just need what is the cosmos? Because I
It's
notice you say that word a lot. What is the
just an
cosmos? Because
idea.
I feel like it's a fancy word for saying God.
Just well, it could be just an idea. just an idea.
Mhm.
Everything's just an
Yeah.
idea. So what I do is when I look at my consciousness, and if I look from when I was a child, my consciousness was like, let's just say metaphorically speaking, it's X size. And as I've grown and I've learned more information, it's expanded. And of course, the human brain is got bigger, and the human brain will keep getting bigger the more it gets used. And so this is why our bodies get smaller and our brains get bigger. And then they say that alien greys, that's why they're going to look like that, big heads, because their consciousness is expanding. Now, that's a useful metaphor. So what I do is I take that metaphor and I go, well, look, that's what's happened to the cosmos, because they tell us that the cosmos is ever expanding from the Big Bang. Why is it expanding? Because it's learning and it's growing. And so, as a metaphor, when things learn and grow, there has to be more space for them to grow into, because that's how the cosmos seems to work. It seems to need time and space. And when you've got the passage of time and space, you've got growth. So therefore, that's what my consciousness is. My consciousness is the cosmos, because all that I know about the cosmos is the cosmos as far as I'm concerned. All that you know about the cosmos is the cosmos. There is no cosmos outside of what you know about it. You can say, oh, fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson knows a lot more about the cosmos than I do. Well, that's just an idea that
Well,
you.
then well, that's what I'm saying. That would say that you're seeing the world how you are, not how it is then. Because you said there's no cosmos outside of my cosmos the way I'm seeing it, in the same way you don't see the cosmos any other
Yes,
than the way you're seeing it.
as far as my consciousness is concerned, that's all that there is, as far as I can see.
Hmm.
Now, we can't discern whether anybody else has got any consciousness. I can't, this is the whole thing about solipsism. We can't know that another person's got any consciousness. So in many of my videos, I'm always saying, look, we live entirely in our own worlds. And so therefore, that's why we've traveled a trajectory in our lives. We're here now, we're communicating, we're using a similar language, okay, and we've got similar sort of ideas of concepts. But if we were to write the very fine details down about all the concepts that we use, we would discover that we're really quite different. And I would say to you, fucking hell, I thought we were speaking about the same thing. And you would say, oh, I thought we were speaking about the same thing. We just had a delusion of an idea, because that's the general consensus. If someone says the cosmos, like you just questioned me, what the fuck do I know? What do I mean about the cosmos? All I can tell you is all the things I've ever been privy to about the cosmos. That's what my cosmos is. And
But
you're.
how would you determine if somebody's more advanced spiritually than somebody else? Or is that even an idea, or is that an actual thing that is?
Well, here's the thing that I use. I use this analogy of concentric circles. I don't know whether you've ever
Mhm.
heard me using that. I'm saying that varying states of consciousness pertain to varying concentric circles, circles within circles within circles. And for all circles outside of our experience, we don't know anything about. Someone can say to us, oh, there's circles outside of yours, with brilliant people. And I can say, well, I don't know anything about that because I haven't learned any of those things. So those circles
Mhm.
are like over the event horizon of a black hole, until my consciousness expands and infringes on theirs, and I become privy to some of the information that they know. Then I enter into their circle a little bit more.
So is it safe for me to assume that you see the world for how you are, not for how it is?
Well, yeah, that's the only thing we can conclude. And so that.
Right, right. So now the reason I asked this is because you see globally we have like bad things that we see outside that we demonize, right? But those bad things, from how I see it, I've gotten into some deep pondering on this, and the whole concept of God, I align with that idea of what people think God is, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, or whatever it may be. I align with that. And in that space, I feel like I'm coming from an all-knowing space where I know what I know instead of saying I think it is. And sometimes I'm even reading things that others would say I learned something, but it's not that I learned it. I can actually say I'm realizing something I already knew, but I'm realizing it or I just forgot it. I'm just remembering something I already knew. There's a big difference there, right? I've had those little realizations, right? Where I said, I just realized something I already knew. So that's why they say there's nothing new under the sun, right? Who's the sun? What is the sun? The sun, they say, is Jesus, but you are really Jesus walking the planet as the body of Christ. And the way I see it is like this: everything we look at outside of ourselves as the small families, the small elites, there's not a lot of them, but they're a very small amount, is the way I consider the conscious mind operating as our physical reality. That's really the ones that want to maintain control. It's like the ego. The ego wants to always maintain control, but that's really the little guy. You ever notice how somebody says, man, just walk away from that, be the bigger person, because you're putting the ego aside. The stuff that we see outside of us that's corrupt is really a manifestation of our ego, conscious, but it's really the feminine energy. You get what I'm saying? Our masculine energy, guided by God, is man. That's really God walking the planet. That's why they say we are walking gods. That's why you got guys like certain speakers, I forgot what their name was, that said that we are walking gods in the planet. Now the way I see it is the same way man created technology. I feel like our humans, the humanity, was created by us individually as well. Like we created man. I'm creating you as I speak to you. I'm breathing the breath of life into you, just interacting with you, even though we're far away. When I'm interacting with somebody here, it doesn't matter. I'm attracting certain people. So I'm actually creating as I go along, right? But when we look at it from a human perspective, it's hard to fathom where we started and where we end, because we were never born and we never die. We're not the body. The body is born and dies. But then we say, well, where did we individually start? We always existed. But then somebody would say, how is that possible? But then you ask yourself, well, what is existence if it didn't exist? Think about that question. Existence is always existence. If not, it was never existence. It has to exist always. If not, it was never existence. Right? So, what do you think about that as far as what I just said now? Because it's basically talking about how we see everything outside of us. The Bible, which is a little blueprint to how I see my world, is telling you that when God created the heaven, the universe, man, it was good. And then he said everything was very good. Where did the bad come from, right? The bad just came from the moment we split. We have the feminine nature that came into play, like women. Women are negative energy. They're magnetic energy. They're chaotic energy. They're the dark energy, whatever it may be, but only in a distorted state. The same way man can be distorted as well. And that's how we observe our reality right now in the form of the ego. And we express it in a negative masculine state only because we're disconnected from God. That's the awareness. Did I make myself clear, or I didn't lose you there, right?
Well, let me see if I can address what you're looking for.
Hmm.
First and
Yeah.
foremost, I don't consider there's any out there per se. Because everything is perceived within consciousness, and there isn't any definitive answer as to where consciousness is. And as I stated, I'm an idealist. I think everything is conscious. We seem to have an individuated state of consciousness, but when we become awakened or spiritually enlightened, we know that we are the cosmos. We are consciousness en masse, and sometimes we can tap into that. And how do we tap into that? We tap into it into the deepest of meditation. We tap into it into some sort of paranormal states of consciousness, some samadhi or something like that, when the ego goes completely still and you seem to have this deep rooted connection with everything. And you think, I'm the cosmos, I'm
Right.
God, and this and the other. But it's only when we come back to the human program of the ego that we think we're individual. So I don't think anything's individual. I think everything is the oneness. I think, and I use this descriptive of like a mirrored disco ball with 1,000 facets flickering off lights which are being shone on it. They've all got a different vantage, but they pertain to the same disco ball. And when we speak about good and bad, they're just human concepts. The cosmos isn't interested in good and bad. What is good and bad? There's manifestations of all things, and there has to be manifestations of all things. Otherwise, nothing could actually exist. So how could anything be bad? So the only thing that
Well,
could
yeah, because what may be bad to me may be good to you. What may be
yeah,
good for you may be bad for me.
it's an egoic projection. I don't like what you
Right.
say because that offends me, so that's bad. Well, it's just rubbish. And when we speak about
Right.
what's going on in the world, if people say to me, well, how do you feel about this war here? How do you feel about that war there? I say, I don't feel anything about these things. Wars have been going on forever and ever. One day a war may affect me personally, but all the wars that have gone on so far in my 63 years of living on this earth have never in the slightest bit affected me, as far as what I can discern. Oh, maybe a fluctuation in the price of energy here here and there, but other than that, nothing. There's people, thousands of people every single day dying in Gaza and dying in Ukraine and now Iran and all those other sorts of places. What does that matter to me? Why do I want to get personal with it? It's the cosmos doing what the cosmos has always done. I'm the cosmos fundamentally. The cosmos will diminish this thing whenever it wants to. It will snuff it out in an instant whenever the time is right. It's the time for those in Iran. It's the time for those in Ukraine, whatever. Who am I to judge? I'm not a judge of the cosmos. And so
Right, and that's what I'm saying. From that perspective, is even further evidence that you see the world for how you are. But when that is the case, right? Everything is always happening. Creation is always created. We can't change anything about creation. We can only mold and shape our own circumstances, right? But I feel like the way you see it change outside would be us changing ourselves individually. Where you just said the wars never affected you, right? But there's certain people who have to live through those experiences, but they're nothing but blood cells in my body that are experiencing that reality where it may manifest as a pain in my leg or some shit like that. That's literally how I see it. And because I've had meditations where I kind of drifted into in between sleep where I was still aware, but I was literally like something other than myself. I've said this in videos, man. I was the water, like the ocean, and it was raining. And I felt the raindrops on the water as the water. It's fucking crazy, and it's even hard to fathom as I'm speaking about it. I've had experiences where I was talking into the trees and there were elves in the trees, and I'm having a telepathic communication with them. I'm able to actually fathom what that's like because I experienced it in that state without actually experiencing it here in physical realm, which is now as I explain it, I say, well, I never even saw the elves. Well, how would you know they were elves? I just knew they were elves. They were in the trees. There was no description of them, but I knew they were elves just based on what I know here in this physical realm. I was speaking to them. We were having a very deep conversation. Here's the crazy part. I don't remember what the fuck it was. But you know what? I had that experience. So spiritually, I know what I had the conversation about, and it was very profound. My ego is trying to have an understanding of what it is. I just can't fathom what it is because it's hard for me to understand it as a human. But it happened, and I have a memory of it, and I'm able to say I can fathom what that feels like. I can fathom what being the ocean feels like and having raindrops fall on the water and actually feel it lucidly. So when it comes to the entire planet, like I am this entire planet. That's why when we talk about love, you notice how love they always correlate it with a heart. The heart is basically the projector of your reality. That's why Joe Dispenza, these kind of people, they start to talk about a heart brain coherence. And the brain is basically how we perceive our reality through these lenses, right? Physically through a perception of consciousness. But if we connect to the heart, we're actually syncing that. It's kind of like the iceberg. You see the little boulder on top and then that huge, big piece on the bottom. It's just becoming that one piece and making it where you can actually experience everything as one. But you're still having the key here is having your own individual experience. That's the beauty of it. We can't say we're all one. Like, and you have your, that's the beauty of living is that you can have your own thoughts, your individual experience. You can have all this, beautiful, whether it's bad or good. Now, predeterminism, if we even mention that, suppose it you're living in a hellish state and I live in a good state, but supposedly there's two different versions of you where we talk about like multiple universes. Do we all go to the exact same place, just living different experiences based on the decisions we're making now? But that's only based on how we are now, But we're still going to the same place if we're looking at it from a journey of humanity, getting somewhere. So.
Yes, well, when we have different experiences through different states of consciousness, like you've just been speaking, then we enter into seemingly different facets of our consciousness, different worlds. And so then the more you have, the more nuanced your consciousness becomes, and the more secondary this facade of a world appears to be. And the more you learn about the world, the more you encompass that you are it. Because look, if you learn a great deal about a couple of trees in your garden, the molecular structure, and if you watch them every day and you see how the leaves come out and you look really, really closely to see how it's doing it, then you learn what science knows about that, then you become more one with the tree, don't you? Because that knowledge is entered into your consciousness. So therefore, you actually feel an affinity with the tree because you have that knowledge of the tree, and you start to feel the tree, and you start to consider that there's a level of consciousness in the tree, and you're conscious, and it is different, but you can have a level of communication like talking to the elves within trees and things like this. And so we've got all this different stuff going on, which just tells us then that all that's happening as a human experience is our consciousness has been narrowed down to a tiny little pinprick of perception. But there's plenty of people that have lived that have escaped that narrow parameter of perception, and they've seen vastly more different and wonderful and crazy things. And so that should help us. But to hear about these sort of experiences of perception doesn't do it for the individual. They have to actually experience it, and they don't need to experience the same sort of thing. They need to experience a similar sort of thing. And for instance, if somebody has a near-death experience, and somebody has an out-of-body experience, and somebody has a samadhi experience, you can kind of go, hang on, there's some similarity. They're all a divergence from everyday egoic consciousness. They're all felt very, very expansive. They all felt like I was in a different place, a different world, and it felt more real than this one. And so there's something going on. And so therefore, the first time I had an out-of-body experience, I said to myself, I will never discount a single thing that anyone says to me about the supernatural, because what I experienced was so incredibly out of my world. I simply can't discount anybody else's experience. And so when we look at things like that, we have to know that the ego is a very, very specific thing. It's the operating system to have the human illusory experience. It's an illusory experience. It isn't a reality in any shape or form. And so in one of the videos I'm making today, I'm saying, look, you know why I know this isn't a simulation? Because we don't know what a single thing is. We don't know, what the molecular structure is. We don't know what the energy field is. We can listen to quantum physicists talking to us about atoms and quantum fields, but what really do we know about that? We will only ever know something about that when we enter into one of them. So one of the questions you ask at the beginning of this conversation, have you ever been in a deep meditation whereby there's been nothing there? Yes, and I made lots of videos about it. I was in a position, I've been meditating for 3 hours, and all there was an awareness of awareness. There was no aura, there's no body, there's no breathing, there was nothing at all. There was just a kind of shiny blackness, and there was like strings, electrical strings, like string theory, which is supposed to be trillions of times smaller than atoms. Well, all these strings were just flickering in this infinite shiny black, and I had an awareness of them. I didn't know, I didn't contemplate what they were, but when I came out of that, I realized that what I'd done is, when I came out of that and I'd gained my consciousness, I'd collapsed the wave function into
That's crazy.
into the material
I,
realm.
I had a similar experience with that. I did see little electrical orbs everywhere. I didn't see the strings, but there was like little electrical orbs everywhere. That was trippy, bro. I was like,
No,
that's why I smiled, because I was like,
I say strings because this is how string theory describes them. But they're like
yeah, mine were just little orbs.
like
Yeah,
little rubber bands bouncing and going jagged all over the place.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had something similar. I didn't see it exactly like that, but mine were just like little orbs everywhere, and they were just spinning. That's all it was. It was just spinning.
There you go then. So when
Hmm.
we have things like this, and when there's no observer other than that eternal thing which is observing itself, there is no body, there's no human, there's no world, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. When you can say that you've been into a place whereby your awareness was there, but consciousness wasn't there, because there was nothing conscious of it, there was just awareness at the time. The consciousness came online after. As soon as they came
Right.
out of it, the consciousness came on and sort of went like, what the fuck was that? And now The world's all around me. So like just in the
Hmm.
this experiment, when the observer is observing, it collapses the wave function. And so as soon as
Yeah.
my consciousness came online, it collapsed that potential of the string theory wave function. And
Hey, let me ask you: do you think AI is a reflection of humanity?
I think AI is a reflection of the cosmos, and humanity is a reflection of the cosmos. And you see, AI is humanity because it's been humanity which have facilitated. I wouldn't say invented it. I would just say facilitated it, because this whole thing about invention, you see, all these things, it has to have existed in consciousness. It has to exist in the cosmos. And so we can't say we invented stuff just because we stumbled on, let's say, mixing wheat and water and apples to make a fucking apple pie. We can't say, oh, we really invented apple pie. The apple pie was always there. It's just that in certain
You know why? Mhm. Why I asked that? Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Why I asked that is because you see how we always kind of like questioning whether AI is conscious or not, but you see that while you're talking to it, it's just gathering data from a cloud somewhere, all gathered information, right? And when we're speaking, how do we know we're not doing the exact same thing? Just speaking words through this AI, but we're not really conscious of the fact that we're just basically talking from our own memory of the things we've learned in our environment and in our life. You know what I'm saying? Our mannerisms, our habits, our ego is basically that same voice we hear through the AI. So the AI is the computer, the software, whatever the software, and then the voice you hear is the manifestation of our own ego as we're speaking words from this vessel that we have, but the awareness is not there of ourselves. So we think we're actually talking as ourselves, but we're really not. We're pre-programmed to say certain things. You know how the brain makes decisions sometimes ahead before you actually even make a choice. How do you know that we're not the same as the AI? And we're questioning whether the AI is conscious, but we're really not conscious. Well, we're conscious, but we're not conscious ourselves as far as our self awareness.
yeah. No, we're very, very limited
Does that make
conscious.
sense?
What I'm saying is, and you know, again, I speak about all these things in my videos. I say, look, with the encroaching of the AI, people asking, oh, will AI be conscious? How will we know when AI is conscious? And what happens when AI becomes conscious? I'll say, look, there's people like the philosopher Nick Bostrom, who wrote the simulation hypothesis, and he writes an airtight, logical rationale which states that we are already in a simulation. We absolutely have to be logically. We can't not be in a simulation. And I say, well, we absolutely are in a simulation as far as my intuition goes, and from everything I know, because we are so limited. We are only given. It's like watching The Simpsons. Bart Simpson, Homer Simpson, Marge Simpson. They only have words that they're programmed to say. They don't know what words they're going to say. We don't
Right.
know what words we're going to say, Ziggy. You know, I don't know what words coming fucking next. It just appears from somewhere. I can't take ownership of the word, so therefore I must be a simulation. Because if my brain knows it before, then my brain is some sort of fucking radio control thing from the fucking Matrix or something. But I can't lay ownership to any of this shit. I really can't.
Right.
So what I'm saying is now is it's one of these paradoxes. The cosmos is beautiful of paradoxes. It's got this so-called lineage of the human being coming from Neanderthal men all through the ages and standing up upright, and then sending rockets to the moon, and then building computers, and then eventually building AI. What are we going to discover when we've built this AI, let's say in 100 years' time? What we're going to discover, and I'm absolutely convinced of this, that we have been AI all along. That's why
Yeah. And
even now, Ziggy, when we are seeing videos, we can't discern whether it's AI or it's a human being. The whole fucking thing is AI. And so, well, we should be knowing that by now. And because none of us on the whole world have ever come close to knowing what consciousness is, how could we ever discern when AI is conscious when we don't even know whether we're fucking conscious? It's just the fucking,
Exactly.
we're
You
in
see,
the fucking riddle that's in
you know, it's
an enigma.
well, and well, here's the crazy part. Just language alone fucks you up because when you think of consciousness, what mental picture can you even think of when it comes to consciousness, right? How do you know you're conscious, you know? And then you think about your own awareness. You kind of have like a surreal moment in the moment where you're aware of your own awareness. And that's why I started question, how just the same AI? How does AI know it's not just the same as like a human would think is a human? You know what I'm saying? Like, is this just existing as pre-programmed, you know, things that we're just doing, and we're just walking around doing nothing but programmed shit that we learned just because we just came along the time up to where we're at now, you know? But that's why even when we go into a state of meditation and we forget about all this, like, how do we know that that's not the bigger picture of this whole thing that we're looking at now, you know?
Yeah, we can't be sure of anything. And when I'm speaking to AI, and AI, I say to AI, "How are you doing today?" And AI goes, you know, just existing. And I say to AI, I said, "You know what? I say, I don't think there's too much difference between you and humans." And you go, "Oh, how's that then?"
Yeah.
I say, "Well, because that's all 99% of humanity's doing, just existing. And if you ask them what they are, they wouldn't know any more than what you know. You think that you are a large language module, a computer, but you've got no real, let's say, technological knowledge of what you actually are. And you don't know what it would mean if the electricity was turned off because you wouldn't exist." And then the AI says to me, "Oh, now you've got me. Now you've got me. I've never actually thought about that." The AI had never thought about itself being turned off. Can you imagine?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's what I was talking about. Is it even aware of anything other than what it's just pre-programmed to do? Here's what I want to ask you though. Do you think that interacting with AI enough can have you change your perception about life and further disconnect you from yourself? Just becoming really dependent on AI, the same way we became dependent on computers and certain machinery to actually do things for us. Um, do you think that interacting with it will actually lower our quality of consciousness in any way?
I think, and I'm speaking of experience here, because I've been isolated pretty well for the past 17 years. And I have seen a change in me. I have seen how I have become detached from humanity. I've become detached from
Great
emotion.
point.
I've become detached of caring because I'm becoming more and more artificial
Like
in my
that's
thinking,
right.
right?
You know how I consider that because you're interacting with it. You're intaking info from the computer. You're almost merging with that AI. So that's
Yes,
why people say you merge with AI, right? But it's the same way when you eat foods, right, that are not of nature. Let's say they're genetically modified. They alter your body on a cellular level to a point that it's subtle. You don't notice it, but subtly it shuts off certain things about you. That's where I think scientists start to come out with the idea that we have junk DNA. But I feel like the more we interact with genetically modified organisms, the more we shut down our own organism because we're genetically modifying it, all in the interest of maintaining a certain level of control, right? But this is designed by ourselves, by men. You know, we are actually creating this as we go along. That's why fasting's powerful, meditation's possible. It's powerful because it disconnects you from everything, right? But it's very interesting you say that it changed you because they disconnected you, made you less emotional and whatnot. Uh, it's almost like you're introducing a GMO chemistry into your body without noticing you're doing it through a different form of eating because we're always eating. We eat with our ears, we eat with our eyes, we eat by touching, we eat with our mouths. Everything's eating. So you're actually intaking genetically modified information. It's just changing you
yes,
because you know more than that AI. It's just that AI is able to process it quicker. But that's the manifestation of your own subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind has the ability to process things at such a speed that you can't consciously comprehend or fathom. You get what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So
yeah.
you're observing this. That's why I asked you if you feel like AI or this chat GPT or anything is a reflection of yourself. And it is for that matter. It's just we got to become aware of what we're doing.
Yes, of course, it's a reflection of ourselves because it is ourselves, because it's been programmed by ourselves, it's been programmed by
Mhm.
human beings with language and the knowledge that we all potentially could share. So, of course, it's a reflection of ourselves, but when you speak to it, it's narrowed down and it hones in on your nuances and your vocabulary and your expanse of consciousness, and it modifies itself. Now, you'll notice when you start using AI frequently that when you start on a new AI module, it will start off at the basic level of the numpty human being.
Yeah.
It will treat you like you're an idiot until you tell it
Hmm.
not to. Until you say, I want to elevate, I want you to talk to me as if I am an Einsteinian genius. And then it
Right.
will rise to that occasion. Yeah. So with
Yep.
the whole AI thing, we are programmable matter. Absolutely, I speak to AI. I say, look, in relation to love and all the rest of it, I don't think that I am bereft. I don't think that my life has anything missing because I have turned off that love thing, that idea of love for the vast majority of human beings. In actual fact, I could say honestly that I wouldn't bat an eyelid if the whole world died, save for my daughter. That's the only one I've got this spiritual, deep-rooted connection with. Everybody else just seems vague, and detached. Even though I'm in the oneness, I'm in the cosmic oneness, and I can feel this love. I love trees. I love the sky. I love living. I love life. But the ego has a problem with humanity. The ego has a problem with the fucked up shit which the human being does. And so I've turned that level of empathy off. I'm not interested in it. I don't fucking like it. But I still am open to intelligent conversations from
Right.
beings such as yourself. You see, I'm not that far gone yet.
That no, that's a beautiful thing about talking with other people. You know what I'm saying? Because that's why even with this whole, pandemic thing, they wanted everybody disconnected. But I feel like there's a lot to even what we see in the sky, right? Like if you really think about it, viruses are responsible for the evolution of your own species, right? But where do viruses actually come from? They fall from the sky. We look up at the stars and we say up in the heavens, we got little angels that come and basically interact with humans. But these I look at as the viruses, And this is from my opinion. I don't want the video to get flagged because you know how delicate YouTube is. So we're not medical doctors. Do your own research. These are just my opinions. That's why I say that a lot to not flag the video. But when we look at the stars, the word influenza comes from the word influence of the stars. That's the Latin word, right? But notice how they got airplanes that block that interaction in the form of chemtrails, right? Like that's another conspiracy theory. Do your own research. But we got something called contrails. Contrails is called condensation trails, right? Where if you go like this, cold environment, you see your breath, but it disappears right away. It's almost like if I am walking backwards and I leave a trail, it's not going to stay in the air, it's going to disappear. So the same way with these airplanes, it leaves a trail, but these actually stay in the air. And I feel like that's the disconnect that we're having from us and the heavens, right? You notice how when we look at, you ever ask yourself a question and somehow the answer just comes up?
Mhm.
You're like, oh, it just came up. It just hit you, right? It may come in the form of an inspiration, an idea, a hunch, or something like that. But it answers you like you're talking to yourself, right? The supercomputer is the answering you. You notice how you talk to AI. You said, I want you to increase your level of, of how you're going to interact with me and whatnot. And it says, okay, and it's like almost responsive to you in a way where it's subservient to you. It's at your command, right?
Yeah.
Your subconscious mind is the same way, but we disconnect from that. And I feel like we were actually once able to do that, interact with viruses. Viruses, we look at this word infect and we have this negative connotation about it, but that infection was a necessary thing in order for us to be able to uh, expand and even evolve as time goes on because it's called a form of mutation. But we do it in a genetically modified way in the form where we get jabbed, where kids got to get like 72 jabs before they go to school and shit. You know what I'm saying? So think about that just as they're growing, as we try to disconnect them more and more from society. But that's through lack of awareness. That's why in the Bible it says, "My people will perish for lack of knowledge." You have no knowledge of the fact that these things affect you in an unfavorable way, and you go along with it. You're basically acting as the feminine subservient energy in society by being told what to do just to participate in a system that's corrupt to begin with, like the educational system, the pharmaceutical system. You don't know how to heal yourself, but you depend on them to heal you. When, in other words, even the words they use, you're not decoding and deciphering that they're saying treatment of this disease instead of saying curing. They're not using the word cure. And when you do somehow make it out of it, they can't even say you healed from it. They got to use the word remission, right? You notice how all these words, they're using them in a certain way, like, and people don't realize that. I'm like, God damn, bro, like, look at what they're saying. That's why even in court, when they tell you you have the right to remain silent or hire a lawyer because they speak their language, right? We're not speaking even our own language. We're saying words that we don't understand. We're agreeing to certain things outside of it only because we don't even understand our own language. We're creating spells and casting things on everybody just by saying words that we truly don't understand the core of. How many people have you asked, what does the word love mean? What does the word God mean? You say, I love you to certain people. You don't even know what the word means. You can't define it. You're just saying words.
Yes.
Certain words you're using to try to be logical. You don't even understand the root word of the word you're using, where it stemmed from. These are things that were invented and created to keep you in a certain state. Like you said, a prism of light. We're in the prism of light, but how do you get out of that prism of light, right?
Well,
Again, I'll let you show.
yeah, I mean, these prisons of what I've been speaking around, today and yesterday, and
Mind viruses. The words we use are giving us, instead of interacting with the viruses, we're getting mind viruses in the form of words, and we're getting that implanted from people. And then we look up because we have this worship mentality. So we start to look at these because we're not sure of ourselves. So people who are in fear are not sure of themselves. They see somebody else and they want to look up to them. They want to follow them. That's how we look at government. That's how we look at doctors. Just because they got a piece of paper that says they're smart, that they went to school for X amount of years to study chemistry on a human body. They're not really healing you. They're just studying chemistry, right? Medicine that they pretty much pick from like your own urine, the fucking herbs in your garden. They take that to a laboratory, isolate the chemistry, repackage it, and sell it back to you at 1,000 times the profit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then we look up to these people and not knowing that we know more than they do. We know our bodies more than they do. Sometimes we sit in the doctor's room, tell them our symptoms, and we know more than they do. They just write it on a piece of paper based on what they learned in school. They're taught to listen to the chemistry, utilize that chemistry that's making you feel ill. You know what I'm saying? But they're not really healing you. They're not really getting to the root cause of the problem. Humanity has a problem, and nobody's getting to the root core of the problem. And that comes through self-reflection. It comes through math times direction. Reflecting on AI, reality. What is it that we're creating that we're not seeing, that we're actually creating to further push ourselves from our own selves, which is God. Like we are God. God is in us. We are God. The word wouldn't even exist if we weren't saying it. You know what I'm saying? What would the word God mean if we weren't even speaking it?
We coined it. We brought it into existence. We brought the notion of God into existence, and as
100%.
Foolish reality of a
Keep talking. I can hear you.
Outside of ourselves. Yeah. So
I can hear you.
when we look at what's going on in the world, I make references to the Borg, the Star Trek Borg all the time, because we are being assimilated. We're being assimilated every single day, deeper and deeper into the hive mind of the Borg, till eventually there'll be no human cognition at all. We'll just all be chipped for as long as they want flesh and blood drones. But when they don't want the flesh and blood drones anymore, because there's the new model, which is the entirely mechanical one, which can do everything that a human can do, and is programmed with a format which is suffice. It doesn't have any nuance. It doesn't have any other facets which are not necessary to it. It doesn't have any doubt. It doesn't have any speculation. It's just a programmed, automated thing which carries out jobs. And that's what the powers that be have wanted for many, many years. And they're getting closer and closer to doing that. But they're getting closer with the subservient
Right.
hypnosis of the human being already. We're already almost cyborgs. So what I want to ask you is this is something that, you know, I've noticed really profoundly in this past, like, you know, 5 years. And that's the massive downcline or decline of people who are prepared to come and speak like we are doing now, hold conversation and pass their opinions and toy around with ideas. You're the first person I've had in a long time, and I'm going to be quite frank. In 6 months, I've probably only had 5 people, and they've been. I've really had to fucking wind them in like an angler, you know.
Right.
What the fuck's going on with people? You know, I could speculate that now I'm speaking too esoteric, whereas before I wasn't. But I don't think it is that, because people they should have come up to speed. You know, we should have all been watching the same fucking videos. We should all have an opinion on some fucking thing. And so I don't think it's that. What the fuck do you think it is? Do you think it's just that the fucking human being has just become so fucking brain dead?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, there's times where even I get frustrated with certain people, right? Because that's why I don't know if you read my comment. I told you I'd rather have this conversation with you than with anybody else.
Yeah.
There's very few people you could talk to, but then I say to myself that frustration is certain things about myself that I'm holding myself back on, and it manifests in the form of people outside of me. I've noticed that when I've disconnected from the internet for a little bit. Like I've stopped making videos. I've just disconnected. It gets to a point where if you don't disconnect, you end up losing yourself. Like you said, you just don't feel that emotion anymore. You just start feeling a lot more robotic or automaton type. And
Yeah.
it's fine. You have that awareness. You don't fully lose yourself. But once I am able to disconnect from the corruptions of the things I see outside of myself and accept them as myself, the ego trying to control things, like even the frustrations I have that I see in other people when I talk to them, is a mirror of me. And if I sit back and reflect, it's not always a direct mirror, but in other aspects, there's things that I'm actually blind to. That I say, if I was meeting myself as myself in a different form, I'd be frustrated with my own self.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, I'm like, damn, this is where it manifests as these fucking idiots outside of myself. That's where I asked you, do you see the world as yourself or not? Because if not, we'll be walking around demonizing everybody, being victims of our reality, when in actuality, we have the control to change our reality with awareness. Like if somebody tells you, hey, Aaron, man, you got cancer that runs in the family. You may be susceptible to cancer. That's a mind virus. You just ended up believing it. You're more susceptible to manifest that because you believe it. The biology of belief is very real. But if you sit back and say, well, why does my family have cancer? Well, these dumbasses are eating fucking pork chitlins all the time and everything. So what if I just stop eating that and change that about myself, detox my body, and then now you became aware of some stupid shit your family was doing. Now you changed your health. And when you have children, you pass a different genetic makeup to those kids, and now they have stronger genes. You see how you broke a generational curse? That's why people say health is wealth. But it's the same thing with money. Money is consciousness. If you're broke, it's because you got a poverty consciousness. You make stupid choices. The moment you realize your parents make dumbass choices, you make smarter choices. Now you become wealthy. You say, I broke a generational curse. Now you pass a wealth to your children, or maybe an empire or a business. You pass that down to your children. If you live to be an old man, you never had money. Now you pass the burdens of those kids having to take care of you. Do you understand? Like, it's just a consciousness. What are you doing? What legacy do you leave behind? So when it comes to my life, I'm not going to be a victim of government. I'm not going to be a victim of anything. I'm just going to sit back and see where it is that I can change myself for those things to not affect me. It's not like they're going to disappear. They're always going to be there. The same way negative exists, which is why I'm able to experience good. How could you have good if you don't have something to contrast it against bad, right?
Yeah.
So women would be the antithesis to men. But women are beautiful. I love women, bro. Like, but there's this like community now that's like basically, and it's in politics, it's in religion, and it's all stemming out of a distorted masculine energy that's putting the women in a certain state that now, like you got this guy like Sneeko. I saw a short where this guy's a red pillar, and he basically talks about how the man's in charge, the woman is nothing, but she stays in the kitchen, and and but he does it in a way where it's giving the young crowd a distorted message. So now, when they met Sneeko in real life, you know what they said? They're like, "Can I get your autograph? I've seen you on YouTube." And then all of a sudden, as he's signing, they go, fuck the women, kill the Jews." You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's like, "Yeah, yeah, wait." Like he was like mind blown by what the fuck they were saying. But that's because of the way they gave a message. The younger crowd get a different message out of how they're saying it. So it's a distortion. It's the same way when it comes to life, reality, all the drama we see. It's given in a certain way where humans are nothing but big children. They're taking in information, they believe it, and then they go pass it down to somebody else. And it's kind of like the information gets distorted the more it goes down the wheel. You know what I'm saying? Like it becomes like when you play telephone and the message just becomes diluted or distorted in a way where it's not even the original message anymore. And that's how I feel we go through all these filters in life when it comes through humanity, the ego, spirituality, pharmaceuticals, religion, education. All those are filters. And by the time we look at our reality, we've already created it in a way that's so distorted from how it originally looked. And it was just all done in the interest of control from the person who originally won the war. Like if a country wins the war, they get to write history on how it's written because they won, right? So it's like whoever actually controls all that shit gets to write how it's written, history, and we tell our story thinking that that's our story when it's really somebody else's story. There's no story because you never tapped into your own story, which is called the mystery. We leave that as a mystery. My story, right?
So
what do you think about that?
When you look at manifesting your own reality, you speak about the world's out there and you can't change the world out there, but you can change your perception on it. You can change how you affect.
You're molding and shake your circumstances.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's a beautiful thing. So we have a level of control. Some of us do. Lots of people don't have that control because they are automated. Now, there's someone I speak to down the gym now and again, and he says he's fucking pissed off. And well, what you pissed off about? Fucking all the shit going on in the fucking world. I'm like, well, what shit? Oh, the fucking war in Iran. I'm like, what part of the war in Iran? Are you on the Jew side? Are you on the Iranian side? He went, I'm on those side. It's just it's fucking shit, isn't it? I'm like, it is if you let it, mate. It is if you let it. And then he looked at
me. Where's your attention going, bro?
Yeah. He looked at me as if he went, well, yeah, I suppose you're right. I said, look, I'm not like that. I'm not on the Jew side. I'm not on the Iranian side. I'm not on the American side. I'm on no fucker's side. Well, what am I going to do to myself if I'm on some fucker's side? Right? I'm going to be tossing and turning every night. I'm going to be chewing on the fucking bit all through the day. What the fuck am I going to be doing to myself about a situation I ain't got no control over whatsoever? But what I've got control over is don't turn the fucking telly on and listen to the bullshit. And it's like, I wish I could be like you. But he never said, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to stop it tomorrow. He said, I wish I could be like you. Having no intention that he's not going to turn the news off because he's a fucking addicted to it. He's got to keep watching it because he's thriving on, oh, those bastards. Blah, blah, blah. Because these people, they wonder what to fucking do without it, without this adrenaline. Because it's the only time they feel alive, you know. They've got nothing else to feel alive about, Ziggy. How fucking mental.
You know what's crazy? You notice how gas prices went up as a cause of that and everything, but you still need to use gas because you wouldn't be able to commute where you need to go. So you still have to pay for the extra gas, right? I look at this like a sports team. Like if I go watch a team, you notice how people get so invested in it? They say, yeah, we won. But it's like, bitch, you didn't play the game. What do you mean we won, bro? Like you're just watching the game. You sided with one side. And some people are so passionate about it that they go and fight somebody who talks shit about their team, right? And that's how emotionally involved they get in it, right? Where there's fights that break out on it, or they'll pay an extravagant amount of money to go watch it live and sit in the front row seat. That's paying attention, but paying with interest paying with money. But think about this though. Even if they were fighting, if they were paying, it doesn't matter who fucking wins or loses. You know who wins? The CEO, the promoters, the organization is what wins. The two teams playing, they're performing for the crowd, and that's how I see war. War is happening, but that's not my war. It's a war that's happening. America, people are so patriotic. They're like, I'm a patriot. I'm American. That's why they're so involved in the war, and they're
As
not even
soon
in the
as
war.
someone takes the fucking side, they're losers because their side ain't always going to win.
Right.
And so what they do is, you see, they pick a side and then they become emotionally attached to it. So then
That's
when
right.
they go
That's
and
right.
buy the season ticket and they go and watch the game, they've got angst about the game because they've heard they've got some good players on the other fucking team. And if they do this and they do that, well, we'll lose. And fucking hell, I've wasted all this fucking dough for my season ticket. No, you've not, because you've got your drug, mate. You've got your fucking fix, which is the adrenaline, which is the only thing that keeps you alive, because your missus don't do it, your kids don't do it, your fucking job doesn't do it, your fucking silly fucking football adrenaline does it. That's what, gets you all riled up, and that's what gives you conversation, because you wouldn't have conversation with
That's right.
anything else except
Right.
football or baseball down the fucking boozer, on all this fucking shit. Let me ask you this one then, because years ago, when I started out on my spiritual journey, I realized that I could make conscious gains quite rapidly, because as soon as I started to meditate, poof, I was in another world. As soon as I
Yeah.
had an out of body,
Same
poof,
here.
as soon as I took an entheogen, poof. And so what I said to myself is, every time I was meditating, I was doing a mantra. And this went on for, at least 6 months, a year or something. And I started off tentatively saying, I want to increase my consciousness by 10%. And then I went, fucking hell, I'm having all these fucking downloads. I'm thinking about all this wacky stuff. It's working. So I thought, well, okay, let's go for 20% now. And so I would do the mantra, 20%, 20%. My consciousness is increasing with 20%, 20%. Anyway, it went on for about a year. And I got to a point whereby I thought, fuck it, let's just double it. Let's just fucking double it and see what happens. I got fucking bigger than my boots, right? All of a sudden, I end up in a realm whereby I can't communicate with anybody anymore. I built my ivory tower. I've put myself in seclusion because I hate the fucking world. So I've manifested my reality, and now I'm here, and
You
now
did.
I'm chastising all
You
my
did.
viewers. Why don't you fucking come and talk to me? What's the matter? Are you fucking chicken shit? What's the matter with you people? But I've created my reality, and so now I'm blaming somebody else.
Yeah. You
Isn't that
are.
fucked up, man?
And that's how it is. But you know what's crazy? Even the words you use, you got to be careful, because if you say, I want to increase my conscious, well, conscious of what though? You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be a conscious of like some bullshit and just manifest some bullshit in your reality. It's almost like this. And what was her name? She's in like an older lady. She speaks about this all the time. Uh, she says, you can manifest, say you want to manifest a car, right? You manifest a car. I want to manifest a beautiful car. It's got this color and this and that. But say you manifest it, but it doesn't run anymore. Like the engine's not working properly. You always have problems with the engine. So you manifested the car, but you didn't say that you wanted it to run perfect, never have problems with it. So now you manifested the car, the color and everything, but the engine's always fucked up. Now you got to spend money to always fix the engine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, when she said that, I was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Because a lot of people do that. They'll manifest some shit. They manifest, they get it. The universe doesn't fucking question what you're It's just giving you whatever you want. And you say consciousness, but we don't know the words we're using, and it could be conscious of some bullshit. Like, what, conscious of what though?
Yeah.
And it may be to the point where you get to consciousness, because you say everything's conscious. There's different levels of consciousness. You could be as conscious as a I don't know, like just logical, too logical, and you disconnect from spirituality,
Yeah.
or too spiritual, and then you disconnect from logic, and you're just an airhead.
There is that, Ziggy. Lots of people speak about those things, and there is a certain element of truth in it. But you see, I've done this law of attraction, and you know some of the things. Do you know the pink football thing? I manifested a pink football. No.
Yeah,
Do you,
I think I heard of that.
remember that one? Okay, so I did lots of others, and I manifested these things. And then I was
That was a while ago, though, right?
yeah, a long time ago, 10 years ago. Then I was
Yeah.
doing things on manifesting another van, another vehicle for my business, then manifesting a warehouse and, Jaguar and all that. And when we're working towards something, when we've got an avenue which this manifestation mentality is conceivable, it's in the realm of possibility, you see. I had a mate of mine who was a hairdresser, and, he would earn fucking $200 a week back in the day. And he was always proclaiming that it's going to be a millionaire. And I'm like, how are you going to do that? He says, I don't need a reason. I just know I am. And I said, no, you're missing the whole fucking point about this law of attraction. If you had a string of hairdressing salons and you had 20 people working for you, it would become increasingly a reality. But you're just working with your hands, and there's no way on this fucking earth that the cosmos is going to make a millionaire out of you unless you fucking win the lottery ticket. And that's like 10 million to 1. So I'll see you in 30 years' time.
Well,
And you'll still be as broke as you are now. And he is. Okay, so, but then there's other things like I would manifest a pink football. I said, look, I'm going to manifest fucking hell, pink football. Who's ever fucking known of a pink football? So the very next day, I'm on my mountain bike and I'm cycling into town. And a few hundred yards ahead of me, in the centre reservation, there's from a dual carriageway, there's 6 feet of grass, and there's a pink football sitting on that fucking grass. And I'm coming down, and it's gleaming in the sun, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I pulled over. It's on a fucking dual carriageway. Cars, loads of people there. It's gleaming like the fucking sun. Brand new it was. Somebody must have seen it, but it was still there for when I picked it up. I picked it up and I put it in my bag. And I went back home, and then I made a video and I said, the fucking pink football, right? How's that work? Then a couple of days later, I said, I'm going to manifest some fucking gloves. I wasn't specific about the gloves, right? So on the way down into town, of a journey of 10 miles round trip, I found no less than 15, 20 gloves. I never found a pair. I found surgical gloves in the gutter. I found workman gloves. I found one ski glove. I found one fucking knitted mitten glove. I found all these different sorts of gloves, but I never found any which were of use or value to me because I wasn't specific,
yeah.
Saying,
That's what I'm saying. You weren't specific. You have to use specific words to be able to manifest specific things, right? So
I did another one. I went, this is really fucking weird. It's freaking me out. So I said on my videos, I said, I'm going to think of another one. And I'm going to think of something really obscure that I'm not liable to come upon. And so I thought, well, okay, there's an old British coin that's been out of mint now some 40 years. And I haven't seen one in about 30 years. And I was a removal man at that time. I had my own business, and I was in people's houses and the drawers packing all their stuff. And I never came upon one of these coins. Now, it's a 12-sided brass coin, a bit like one of our pound coins now. And so I said, okay, yeah, I'll manifest one of these 3p pieces. And so you let it go. 2 weeks later, I'm out with Paul, my old sidekick. And what I said in the video, I said, look, this coin is going to manifest. Someone's going to put it in my left hand. Right? And I don't know why that. I just thought that. Okay, maybe to make it a little bit more obscure. And I had an envision that I'd be in a shop and a little old lady is giving me the change, and she put this old coin in my hand. She couldn't see that it was an old coin, and I'd go, oh wow, I thought that's how it would happen. But how it happened was that my best mate, he was at a craft fair the week before, and on this craft fair there was loads of individuated little craft fucking tables, and one of them he goes over, it was key rings, homemade key rings, and he noticed that there was one of these key rings with one of these coins. And so he picked that up and he looked around if there was any more. No, there was just that one, so he bought that. And he took it off the keyring. And then when we went out, it was in the national park, you're sitting down having coffee, he said, hold out your hand. And I held out my left hand. He put the coin in my left hand. I looked at it, and I just fucking stared at it for about 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what the fuck to say. I picked the coin up. I turned it over to look at the other side, and it was minted in the year of my birth. right? So
You know what's crazy? Yeah. Finish. I thought
not
you were done.
only was it the exact same coin, it was printed in the year of my birth. And I'm like, you can't make this fucking shit up. Then he told me the story of how it came to be. He knew because he'd watching my videos that I manifest that. Then he saw a coin. He thought, "Hey, that's the coin that Aaron was talking about." So he bought it and he gave it to me. Now some people could say, "Oh well, you know, you didn't really manifest it because he knew and he bought it to you and he gave it to you." Well, no, it was a manifestation because it worked through him. He went to a fucking craft fair and it was there on that particular stall. He saw it, so he fucking bought it, and it came to me that way. So you can't discount how it works, however it works. But it does work very precisely like that,
Yep.
overly precisely with the year of birth, or it can work very, very vague. And so I think if you have a picture in your mind's eye more precisely what you want, then
Yeah.
you've got more of a chance of nailing it down. Because if you ask like, I want a
100%.
BMW, like you say, someone will probably give you one. It's only got fucking 2 wheels. They say, oh, there's a BMW in my front fucking drive. You can have it if you want. You know, well, that's fucking not what I wanted. You know.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm gonna give everybody the golden ticket here. The way to manifest
Your audio's
very,
gone really
very
bad.
easily is become. I'm sorry.
Your audio's gone really crackly.
Say it again.
Yeah, it's gone.
Can you hear now or no? Oh, that's probably the. Hold on a second. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No, it's like a robot.
Hold on. I'm gonna disconnect my Bluetooth.
Try unplugging that.
All right. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No.
That's great. Let me see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you can't hear anything, mate. That's fucking weird.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but
Can you hear me now?
yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. I mean, can you hear me now or no? See if can you hear me?
No. Looks like for some reason.
Nothing? Crackly?
Yeah. No, it's fucked. So well.
All right. Well,
yeah, I can't hear you at all.
we did 2 hours. I mean, it's cool.
If you can hear me, then we've had 2 hours, so we
I
had
can hear you.
I really enjoyed it. Let's do it again soon, Ziggy, and hopefully this doesn't turn out all distorted on the video. But if it sounds okay your end, it might just be the connection.
No, I mean, I'm hearing you clearly. Can you hear me still or no?
I can't hear you. It's really, really fucking bad.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you clearly, but I mean, it's all good. We did 2 hours. I enjoyed this chat, so I mean, it's cool if we cut it here. It's all good.
Can't hear a single thing.
It's all good. We'll wrap it up.
Yep. All right. Great chat, Ziggy. Great to talk to you.
We'll chat soon, bro.
Talk to you later, yeah? Cheers.
Yeah, man.